week ago, yesterday, a remarkable event occurred in the Diocese of Georgia. The last time it had occurred was 60 years ago, something like that. In the Episcopal Church, we had a revival. Yeah, I laughed too. Yeah, that's right. We're the frozen chosen, aren't we? Are we the Republican Party at prayer? A revival? Episcopalians don't need revivals, do they? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. It was a remarkable, remarkable time. And I didn't see many of you there. I'm sorry you couldn't make it. See, Ken Kraft was there. But y'all didn't make it. And I'm glad you didn't. Because I would be completely without a sermon this morning. So thanks for your absence. Now, not to worry, a good bit of it was recorded, particularly Bishop Curry's sermon. But get a cup of coffee and a sandwich because it lasts 35 minutes. Almost half as long as this one will this morning. Oh, pain, yes, I hear it, I can feel the pain. It was a remarkable time, and two things happened there. Oh, and if you went, you got one of these handy-dandy funeral fans. It's not a funeral fan, it's got Bishop Curry's picture on it. It says on there, Revival, Diocese of Georgia, fearless faith and boundless love. It also has a picture of Deaconess Alexander on there. Probably not many of you know who that is. I noticed when I was doing the college this morning, and y'all were looking at your bulletins and turning them upside down, because that wasn't the college printed in your bulletin, was it? Don't tell Cynthia I changed the college. That was a college for Bishop Alexander, Deaconess Alexander, who was a remarkable individual who Bishop Curry used sort of an example for what his message was. She has a remarkable life, and I'm going to have to compress it, but not to worry. The video that they made about her is online through a variety of avenues, as is Bishop Curry's sermon. Alexander Ann Butler Alexander was born somewhere around the end of the Civil War, maybe 1865, somewhere around in there, to a slave family. She was the 11th in her family. Her father was a remarkable individual. His name is James Alexander. And he taught himself how to read. That's, by the way, against the law. Slaves could not learn how to read. They might read some things like the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights. They say, wait a minute, wait, this is wrong. So that's why anytime people are enslaved, they are never allowed to be literate. But he taught himself. He happened to be owned by a master who was, I don't know if he's good or not, but he's very savvy in that he knew that if you beat and worked your slaves, didn't feed them and all that kind of stuff, they couldn't work. And you didn't make any money off the crops, which were cotton, rice, and those sorts of things at St. Simon's. So he was a very good master, if you will. And he encouraged James Alexander's literacy and gave him books out of his library, actually became his private secretary, his scheduler. Throughout the time that he was enslaved. At the end of the Civil War, of course, everybody's released, emancipation, 1864. And then what do? All of these former slaves, they don't have any place anymore. So they're scattered around, as was James Alexander and his family. And they went to a little place called Pinnock. That land was given to them. And that's the good news. The bad news is you've been to Pinnock, swamp on the Altima River. Thank you for the swamp. I just enjoyed it so much. The mosquitoes, and the bugs, and alligators, and snakes, and all that. But that's where they made their home. And that's where Alexander would grow up. Deaconess Alexander. She would not deaconess yet. And she would have her same passion, the same passion her father had for literacy, reading. He taught her how to read, and she would go on and be a teacher herself. And they taught her how to read with the books that they had. Book of Common Prayer, Holy Bible, only two books you got. What would it be like if at Lakeside we went up there and taught all the kids to learn how to read using the Book of Common Prayer and the Holy Bible? Would this be a different world? I mean, this would be pretty remarkable. Because in your reading, it's reading comprehension is the ultimate goal. And so being able to start off from day one, A, B, C, and finally come up and read, in the beginning God created. Start that off as a child. Creator God so loved the world, He gave. How would that be with children coming up? I was a see Dick run in that spot or something like that. Okay, but that's remarkable. Alexander would be a teacher. You heard in the gospel reading, this guy's teaching. He's teaching with authority. She was a teacher, and she taught in the public schools of Pentecost, which were sorry. By the way, this is Reconstruction days. And she would go on to feel that this wasn't enough. She would eventually go to college for 3 years. She would establish a school. She would have 40 to 50 students a day in her school. And get this, in Sunday school, because she would also establish a church, Good Shepherd, Pentecost, Georgia. There'd be 60 children in Sunday school. We have this morning, Holy Comfort Sunday school. It's just remarkable. I mean, how many churches had 60 kids in Sunday school? That's remarkable. And she is teaching them. She starts with it. She gets other books, but this is her foundation. She also is unhappy with some of the schooling in other places, particularly Darien. She would go over there with her sisters and teach because she wanted to teach at a Christian school, and they allowed them to teach in the church. And she would do that for about 20 years. It would take her a bit of time to get there. Pennock, Darien, is 20 miles. The only way you get there, road. And it's not gently down the street. This remarkable woman who insisted on Christian teaching. Not just reading, writing, and arithmetic, but Jesus Christ in the schools. 1907, the then Bishop Nelson of the Diocese of Georgia recognized her diaconia, her diaconate, her service, her teaching, her commitment to God, her love, and he would ordain her a deaconess. It's pretty risky business. This is 1907. Construction is still going on. The African-American South still oppressed. And here's someone being ordained in the church as a deaconess. He took a big chance. She was the first woman deaconess, and of course the first obvious African-American deaconess in the Episcopal Church. He took a chance, but he knew that something was happening because he got out of town. He went up to be the bishop of the Diocese of Atlanta. But he did that, and that's part of what our church is. They're not afraid to face issues and make decisions and do things. I'm very proud to be an Episcopalian, and we faced umpteen issues in 100 or so years since then. Alexander would continue her ministry 60 years. 60 years. She would never marry. She would never have children, of course. And she would be ministering to all of the little kids. She'd teach them how to be literate. What a gift, the most powerful gift you can give, is to teach someone to read and comprehend that reading. You have just opened up the world to them. They can do anything at all. Teach, read. And that was her whole shtick, And there's no telling how many hundreds, thousands, generations of lives that she could have, with that she did touch in that time of her ministry. She would eventually be recognized by the Episcopal Church as a saint. I was there, 2015, after a lot of work. She is now Saint Deaconess Anna Butler Alexander. Only one we got from Georgia. And think of that. Here's a humble product of the American South in the post-Civil War era. Terrible time. And she raised that up because of one thing, and that was love. Love. She had the love of Jesus Christ. And Bishop Curry would then take that and use that sort of as a stepping stone for his message for us. Love. He would ask us a question. I'll ask the same to you. What's the opposite of love? Indifference. Indifference, okay. That's a pretty good one. Well, if you look at the dictionary, what does it say? Hate. Yeah, hate. Well, he said, on the line with Carol said, that no, it's not hate. Love, the opposite of love is self-centeredness, selfishness, willfulness. That's the opposite. That's the biblical definition of the opposite of love, is self-centeredness. Self-centeredness then leads to indifference, which leads to anger and hate. When you're indifferent, you don't say, but when you don't give a tutti frutti about the ones around you. I almost said the other word. See, I've changed since I was last year. Self-centeredness. And throughout the entire biblical story, that self-centeredness causes humanity all sorts of misery. All sorts of misery. You think about it right now in our world, the self-centeredness is going on. And I won't use our government as an example. I won't use Congress as an example. But you could if you wanted to. If you were inclined to do that. But there's plenty of that around. And that is the exact opposite of Jesus Christ. The exact opposite. Jesus came to us with a love that passes all understanding. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Love God with all you got. Love one another as I have loved you. This is my covenant with you. Over and over again. And that love of unconditional love, of service to each other. Service to each other. And when you serve someone else, when you have that agape, that love of Jesus Christ, where's yourself? It's gone. So you have tons of room in your heart then. You have tons of room in your heart then. So that's what we're called to do. That's what revivals are. Revival means what? Consciousness. Consciousness. Not unconsciousness, but reconsciousness. A new consciousness. A new life. A new way of looking at things. And that's why I think that every time we come here together, this is a revival. It's a revival. We need to put some sawdust on the floor. We need to get some tambourines. We need to get good gospel Pentecost choir rocking and get everybody revived, get that spirit moving up in them so they could once again focus on what we're all here about. One and only thing. And that's love. And that's love. St. Paul has a lot to say about love. He said in that letter there, and I'm not going to go into all this, but can you all get married to this one? Love is patient, love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. Does not insist on its own way. Selfishness. Rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things. Love never ends. There's another one that Bishop Curry mentioned. I need to let you hear about as well. This is from Galatians. In Christ Jesus, you're all children of God through faith. As many of you were baptized into Christ, have clothed yourself with Christ. There is no longer Jew. There is no longer Greek. There is no longer male. There is no longer female. For all of you are one in Jesus Christ. One in Jesus Christ. We are all the same. We're all the same in the eyes of Jesus Christ, in God, who created us. That's the message of love. That's why Jesus came incarnate, to teach us that. Teach. What Deaconess Alexander taught. She taught those little kids who would have had no chance. No chance. She taught them that they are equal in the eyes of God to everybody else. There is no difference. There is no difference. And what she really taught them is with your knowledge, with your learning, with your ability to read, write, all those things the world has opened up to you. And you can do anything. And she proved that. Because she took those kids as they got bigger, and she had not exhausted her abilities. She would load them up into an old pickup truck that she had borrowed. She would take them to various colleges over time. She was said to be the one that single-handedly depopulated Pinnock, Georgia. She took all these kids to college. And then where did they go? Not many of them came back to Pinnock, Georgia. They went out into the world. They went out into the world, and they changed the world, one person at a time, that they touched. To me, Deaconess Alexander may be the #1 saint that we have in this big old fat book right here, which is called Holy Women, Holy Men. All the saints are listed in here. Let me look under B and see if I'm in there. Next time, maybe. Well, there you have sort of a thumbnail sketch of the revival. Sorry you weren't there now. But, not to worry. What we're going to do is kind of take this as a springboard to next week in our adult education class. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about, the title is Revival of the Spirit. Revival of the Spirit. And that's just our topic. We'll use this as our springboard. Our springboard. It will. And I want to hear from y'all too. It said, somebody put it in the newsletter that presenter would be me. I'm going to be a listener more than a presenter or facilitator. But it'd be fun to talk about that and exactly talk about this thing called love, this love of Jesus Christ, which is the most powerful thing in the world. Love conquers all, and love never ends.
Amen.